when I pitched this, because we created a system called the system of, or we learned it here, the system of 10,000, and 1,000 new converts to your church are added in 1 year. I went and did the prayer part. So I made myself homeless for 3 days. Anything I do, you could see I do 100%. I made myself homeless for 3 days, praying 10, 11 hours a day to deal with the strong man over our city. And then implemented the system part to go in and actually occupy. And since then, we've seen amazing transformation. A drug addict became mayor of the city. All these kind of stories that we can verify for you and show you that this works. But when I gathered our team, our leaders, I taught them on this, and I had total buy-in except for 2 people. And the complaint of these 2 people is, Pastor, are you praying anymore? It's all about systems, and it sounds like network marketing, because we had like a reward system, we had control system, we had everything clicking. And these guys, even though people were getting saved, even though we were reaching the goal, that religious thing, was still there. And these 2 guys were challenging me on this. Sounds like network marketing. And I said to them, how many of you, I said to the group, how many of you, and I'll do this here, how many of you have heard of Avon? Yeah. You've had an encounter with an Avon product. You probably have Avon in your house. And Avon never set things up in such a way where they had a building and you could come and purchase Avon once a week for 2 hours on a Sunday morning. Avon had such a well put together system as these multi-level marketing and network marketing systems are, to make sure, forget about the structure and the system, their goal was that you would have an encounter with an Avon product at some point in your life. And that's why Avon is everywhere. My friends, we have the greatest product known to mankind. We are carriers of this product. We are representatives. We are ambassadors. We are like Wi-Fi hotspots. Where we go, we carry this product. We have a product that gets you out of hell. We have a product that doesn't just make your, it's not skin cream, doesn't just make you look younger. You live forever. And his name is Jesus. And we have housed him in a building. We have locked him in a conference. We have made him so difficult to be discovered. We have depended upon our church sign slogan. We have leaned upon our website. And I began to discover if you could train and equip people and create systems that could get the representatives out there in an organized way. This is what organized righteousness is. Why does certain crime thrive in certain nations, even though the nation is against it? It's socially unacceptable. The police are working to fight it. Why does that crime flourish? It's called organized crime. In the same way, we can organize acts of good. We can organize acts of mercy. We can organize acts of charity. We can organize acts of, organized righteousness. And that's what I was seeing here. Out into a community so that kingdom principles are a consistent force. In any society, people are running into Avon. I mean Jesus. People are running into the kingdom of God everywhere they go. So I was talking with them about this, and because they were concerned. And I said, look, we have a heart to reach people. Jesus compared it to being fishers of men. When you go fishing, you've got to use the right bait. You've got to come up with ways to reach people in an ever-changing culture. And I said to them, because they said, well, did we lose the love in it? Are we not loving people? And I said, not just within system building do we need to love people. We need to love people when you're on the drums. You need to love people when you're an usher. You need to love people when you're out. And the love should infuse everything we do. But setting up a structured system that's highly strategic does not remove God. It does not remove love. It just means that we'll be able to reach more people with the gospel of the kingdom. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. So now what we've been able to do, I'll just watch my time here. What do we have? Now what we've been able to do with History Makers Academy is we've created these series of trainings under the banner of History Makers Academy. And we began holding 3.5-day trainings wherever I could. I resigned from my pastorate position because it worked so well within our church. There were other places wanting to have it, come to their church. We created the mobile training and began to go and do this, and we were seeing results. But the system we set up worked in such a way where when you come for 3 days, you're wowed, you're shocked, you know, stuff is happening, you're overwhelmed. We attached a system to the History Makers training because History Makers training is a system within itself. You see how you're part of a regimented system? You know, it's highly intentional. And we created a follow-up system of 18 weeks. So we will go into a local church. I'll give you an example. We will go into a local church. They'll want to have the 3.5-day training because I've maybe gone there and spoken, or we held a conference there, or they've had some interaction with me. And then we'll hold the 3-day training. Then we'll do what's called a Destiny and Transformation Mentorship, a follow-up 18-week training, video-based. Once a week, it's me on video speaking to those graduates, and they now are really unpackaging what they've learned week by week. 18-week system. And they have some homework assignments, some things that they're doing, and they're meeting together at the church there once per week going through it. Then, at the end of the 18-week process, those who have qualified, and the system has threshed out those who are serious, those who are not. Those who are called to this kind of beyond the four walls ministry, and those who are not. The system has done the work of threshing that out. Because I did make the mistake early in ministry where I created systems and then I put them in people's laps and said, go and do this. Or who has a heart for single parents? Here's a system for you. And they would go, and every single project we created failed within 1 year because the people weren't equipped. We handed them a system, but they weren't trained properly to handle the warfare, to handle all the issues that come when you really go out there to do ministry. So we did the 18-week process that threshed them all through, and now we had those who graduated who were really armed and dangerous for the kingdom. And we formed them into a group called a Transformation Council. This is a cell within a church that does the heavy lifting, or within a city, that does the heavy lifting of societal transformation. So the pastor or whoever can focus on great church services and all the busyness and everything that goes on within a church. This particular Transformation Council, each individual has been trained. They know what sphere of life they're called to impact, and they are meeting weekly. They are strategizing. Our first one we did, we went straight to the mayor. And we said, we're here, we're a Transformation Council, we want to do things in the city, in the community. And these were like regular people that had gone through the system. So, for example, one of them, an older gentleman, he had been sitting in church for over 20 years. He wanted to reach people for Jesus, but he didn't know how. He never led a single person to the Lord. After going through the History Makers system and the full process, after being processed, he started a program called Budding with Seniors. He began overseeing 2 small senior churches in senior centers, and he's leading people to Christ almost on a weekly basis, many of them before they die. I know him. He was in church for decades. And the system processed him properly, trained and equipped properly. Another woman, Marguerite McLeod Fleming, she said, Pastor, I was sitting in church for years. She worded it this way, waiting for my release. And after she came through this same process, this same training, she created a curriculum to help educate families whose children are in the school system where this sex education garbage is being this demonic stuff is being pumped into the kids' minds. She created a curriculum for that after taking this training. And it was in, it's way more now, but the last statistic was, it was in over 36 countries in 6 months. Because she created a system for it. So even if I didn't like system building, even if I didn't agree with it, I couldn't deny, like nobody could deny that this thing was working. And it jogged my paradigm. So now we have these kind of ministries being released in our city. And the mayor, our city thought there were hundreds of us. We called this thing the History Maker Society. And they thought there were hundreds of us. So when we held the event and the mayor went to give us an award for our work, he was shocked to find there were only 13 graduates. He came all the way to the event to give this award, and there were 13 people. Like, they brought their families and stuff, but there were just 13 people who had been so processed in such a systematic way that the effects that were happening through each individual, they were affecting so many. When we really got going, so now we knew that this worked. Now I was taking every invitation I could to any country, because I thought this is reproducible, because it's not based on other stuff, it's based on laws and principles. Now we began to take this out there. And within the next 2 years, we reached close to 300,000 people globally in a 2-year period. In fact, what we began to see happen in Bulgaria was so I don't even live there. The director for the Rule of Law Institute, it's a movement of Christian lawyers. They held a European convocation of judges and lawyers. They actually asked me to speak. I have nothing to say to lawyers and judges. I've never studied law. Again, I'm not that smart. But they asked me to speak on the role of truth in rebuilding a former communist country. And he said to me over breakfast, he said, how is it that you, a Canadian that doesn't even live in Bulgaria, has done more to influence Bulgaria than our own pastors here? And I introduced him to the systems we had set up so that we had a movement functioning without a church. So if I have like political mafia or different things that go on there, different persecution, they can't find a church building, this guy doesn't even live there, and these trainings now are being held. So we've added to the system now where we put a director in the country. The director does a History Makers training called Train the Trainers. Now the director, according to the system, raises up trainers. The trainers go out into the country, hold 3.5-day trainings, implement 18-week follow-up program, set up the Transformation Council. We have a global goal, my personal goal, to establish 12,000 Transformation Councils in the world. And in the next 15 years, 120,000 legitimate history makers. 120,000 legitimate history makers that have a movement, have a project. So this started to impact Bulgaria. And all of that happened in Bulgaria in a 4-year period. So now what we do is we gather these people into a once-a-year conference where we showcase. We don't have big-name speakers. If you're a preacher there, even if I preach, you're limited to a half hour, because the bulk of the time is given to people presenting their drug rehab ministries, presenting their financial training ministries, we're just presenting nameless, faceless, average people who came through the system, built their own system of reaching people, and now the gospel of the kingdom becomes systemic throughout Bulgaria, and all hell and heaven is breaking loose. Wow.